Hey, everybody. This is ExtraNormal Podcast. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Don't do that. That's my job to do those dumb things. How you been? My name's Chris, by the way. This is how long it's been.
It is 2021, and I officially started eating meat.
What's your name?
I'm Brianna Kaye.
Hi, Brianna Kaye. You're not Brianna Brooks, by the way.
I'm not.
No.
Sorry.
No, it's modern age.
To offend, though.
Who cares? Yeah, you started eating meat, so I don't know how many people know. I don't even know if you've mentioned it before.
I think I have.
Have you?
Yeah.
So you started eating live meat.
I'm officially
Live.
a carnivore. But I'm not going, deep into that.
You were a vegetarian
bacon, bacon's the most amazing food in the world, blah, blah, blah.
Bacon is good, but overrated.
I had some
completely overrated.
health issues, so after being vegan and vegetarian since I was 17, it was time to just switch it up and I feel like restart my system. So that's
mix it up.
Yeah.
Best way to mix it up is eat a fucking dead animal. It's a really good way to mix it up. And if you already eat meat, eat an all new animal. Just try a fucking
for all my
new
vegetarians
species
out there, don't worry. I'll be back soon. It's just right now it's really hard for me to meal prep.
I think it's okay. I think it's okay either way. I think that you don't need to apologize for it.
I don't like eating meat though.
Yeah, I know. It's not really, again,
you saw me pull out that bone in my mouth the other day. I was like, oh my God, I feel like a fucking animal.
That was your first real life fucking this is I'm a meat eater when you pulled out fucking a wing or a bone or something. Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
Seeing our daughter's face, she's looking at me, the chicken, what is happening, Mommy?
What's the subject today?
We're going to the moon.
We're going to the moon.
Unlike NASA did back in.
Oh, fuck you! You're already starting. How many minutes in? Let me check the clock.
I had to because I knew you were going to be all.
Well, whatever. I mean,
Where?
I don't know. I think that it was fun for a while. The whole we never got to the moon, but I think that's been pretty well debunked at this point. But there's some fresh stuff now. There's all new conspiracy theories regarding the moon that we're going to get into. Let's clear the palate first. So just on the record, I need you to be on the record minute before 3 minutes or whatever, which is very eloquently said by me already. It's been a month and I'm already back on track, back on that horse. State for the record, ma'am, if you believe, because we're going to get into a lot of stuff of what's on the moon, and it kind of is, it's prefaced by prefaced by the fact that a bunch of people, satellites, rovers, all that stuff has been on the moon. Is there any part of you that believes that we faked the Apollo missions?
You know how open-minded I am to literally everything. So it's like a 50-50. I believe we went because of the facts. Oh my God! And then
that's a fact, Jack.
And then I believe that we didn't go.
What?
Because of some of the facts. So
okay. So you're mixed. You're about 50-50.
Yeah, I'm very
okay.
open to the idea that we did really go, and then speculations and just different things why haven't we been back? And it's that's easy. It's expensive. It's, and I'm just kind of but to come so far and then now having China surpass us, there's a bigger picture.
Far side of the moon.
Yeah.
China first to get the far. Well, I think that, not to give you any credence, I don't want to do that. We've been married too long to give you any credence. I think that maybe the first Apollo mission was faked. Maybe. Who knows? I don't think so. I'll go on the record minute before 5 minutes that I don't think that it was fake, but there's a possibility that maybe Apollo... what was the first moon? Was it Apollo 11? Because it wasn't Apollo 1, right? Or was it? I think it might have been Apollo 1. Let me look it up.
There was many attempts.
So there was many attempts. And you could argue maybe that Stanley Kubrick, because that was the big thing back in the day, when everybody touted that they faked the moon landing, is that Stanley Kubrick was a famous, you know who Stanley Kubrick is, right? Mm-hmm. Clockwork Orange, all that bullshit for all the kids. Look it up. It's not actually a great movie looking back on it. It's interesting, but not great. But they thought he directed it in a Hollywood studio and all that shit like that. maybe they faked the first one.
Which is
I don't know.
Crazy. Like, who came up with that rumor? Like, and how did it? Like,
I think it was like. I think it's just like.
control?
I think it's just one of those things because I think that give or take, whatever. Like I think conspiracy brains kind of work conspiratorial, so I think that people were prone to conspiracies, kind of try to find conspiracy things, and just to
try to make it all like linked together.
And also think about it when it happened. I mean, you were talking about almost 50, more than 50 years ago. Like that was a fucking crazy leap. So if you're just sitting there with your like old ass, boring, like fucking shitty television, and you drive an old ass car, you drive an old Buick, and all that shit, it's. I mean, it's not. I think people could realize and could comprehend that, but it's a big leap to say like we're going from like driving Buicks and watching 22-inch TVs to we're on the fucking moon. Like,
yeah,
that's a big leap, and that's what that cites the amazingness of it happening. But so you think basically, so more of you mostly think that it was real, that they got to the moon, because there was a few after that too. Like they didn't keep producing in Hollywood studios. So so I think that we have to go on. I know that there's probably, because we run a fun fucking weird podcast where it's all kinds of like aliens and ghosts and cryptozoological characters and all that shit. Yeah. So I'm sure there's some people who are like, fuck you. Like they never landed on the moon. Fuck you. Yeah. We're going to go on the preface that they did land on the moon, right? We're going to go on that fact. We're going to take that. Please? Yeah, there's a ton of fucking shit surrounding the moon. Like,
can I tell you my favorite? Or do you want to wait? I won't go deeply into it.
Sure, tell me your favorite.
You just actually heard it too. So my favorite moon conspiracy is that
yeah, the favorite is insinuating that there's multiple, like you have a fucking top 10 list of bizarre moon theories.
Like there's the hypothesis
Moon Theory, a great band to play at Coachella.
The moon could be actually Noah's Ark.
Fucking A. God damn it.
Like mind blown.
That is one of my favorites because it's like one of the most like bizarre. Not because I'm like that has the most credence. Like that's definitely
because when you think about it, the moon, when you're next to the water, it floats and dances on the water. And there's just so many things in the Bible that, like, it's almost like a riddle. You got to really be able to put it together. So I'm open to it. Say us, look at us humans. We can't even get along, even though, like, with having different skin colors, and even though we all bleed the same. So if we are to get into astronomical like warfare and we blow the planet to smithereens,
blow our lid as it were,
it would be nice to know that the moon had all of our specimens
gross
to bring back our lives. You
mean some of our little fishies are going to be swimming around with dinosaur fishies, if you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That's gross.
Sure,
that's nasty.
No, it's more like scientific. It's not like Noah's Ark as you think, like, oh, there's a bunch of cows here, and then there's the lions there, and
so based on this
the
theory,
elephants there for you, Sophia. No, it'd be more like DNA. So they would have all of our DNA saved, so they can easily.
You wrecked my dream, because what I pictured, weirdly enough,
I do that a lot.
What I pictured, Euro Dream Crusher, which is another band that's going to be playing at Coachella.
Okay. Sophia would know because
his Moon Theory's got to be a real band. Dream Crusher's got to be a real band too, right? Yeah. What was I gonna say? No, I was gonna say shit. You got me off track.
Good.
What I pictured when you said that, I literally pictured like a dinosaur sperm bank, like housed inside the moon, and that was such a beautiful fucking picture.
I married this person.
You married a human sperm bank.
You want to see? I married this person.
I have dreams.
Dinosaur sperm bank. That's
Dinosaur sperm bank.
Next death metal band name.
Yeah, they're playing the shitty metal fest. They don't get to Coachella. Dinosaur Sperm Fest is pretty fun. That'd be like a shitty 90s metal.
So stupid.
This episode is all about
sperm.
Name a shitty band. It's all about sperm, really. No, so you think, that's your favorite? That's not your most like.
It's not my favorite, but it's the newest to me.
Oh, the freshest.
And I just, don't correct me, you asshole. I want to say newest. I'll say fucking newest. Fuck you.
I like saying freshest.
Good.
Freshest.
but you're not fresh. So there's that.
So fresh.
No,
not at all.
Anyway, so I feel like, I don't know. I really like that conspiracy, and it all kind of like coincides with people that have been abducted, and they talk about how when they've been abducted,
the moon?
When they've been abducted by these people, they call themselves a watcher. So what if
that's creepy?
This arc, the moon, is where the watchers watch over us to make sure we're not killing ourselves. Like, I mean,
no, that's
we're
not
destroying
happening.
the planet.
That sounds like they sound like shitty serial killers, just like storing our DNA, like creepily watching us.
Supposedly they live very peaceful lives
inside the moon.
We're the ones that's fucked up. Yeah,
they just live inside. Do you think they ever get
I've heard conspiracy theories. I know it sounds insane, but it's kind of cool.
No, it sounds
like they intergalactically insane. Like other beings and there's other humans. Like they're just because we're on this earth doesn't mean that there's other humans in other atmospheres. I believe that.
You're talking about like parallel universe kind of bullshit, right?
No, I'm talking about like they're alien to us because they don't live on our planet. But
she's getting feisty. She's banging microphones.
it's
the
not
Italian, even banging, just fucking punching
microphones.
Punching.
Oh, I'd rather be punching you, but whatever. But so I feel like they supposedly coincide and they coexist, and they don't fight. They don't.
That's like there's news like there is news of like I pulled up an article actually. We're gonna get in a tangent.
Good on it.
I pulled up an article earlier this year, like before we got distracted by life. And sorry again, we haven't recorded in a while, but that's life for you. Of all the shit, like paranormal, more than paranormal, extraterrestrial shit that came out in 2020, like the official release of the Pentagon files, that Israeli guy who said that there's like a galactic federation, which I don't know how much credence I hold to that, but
I kind of believe that.
I mean, it could be true. Who knows? I think it's unlikely, considering that
here we go. The skeptic.
Well, considering that the aliens are only talking to the U.S. and Israel, like that's a little bit like that's like very U.S. like conspiracy theory centric. I think if they were talking to like more world leaders or something like that, I would be like, okay, that makes some sense. But the fact that
you don't know if they are, though. That's part of the whole thing.
But that's what the Israeli dude said. He said they're only in contact with like U.S. and Israel.
Well, so. I believe
now Joe Biden's talking to the Nabu alien.
I believe that, being raised Christian, I believe that Israel is the holy land, the holy ground. So I really feel like if
it's not even Israel.
If extraterrestrials were to no, but I'm saying Israel in general.
Stop hitting it. What is your problem?
Keep hitting the microphone.
You fucking asshole.
No, so I feel like there's a lot of supernatural things that happen in Israel, and there's been a lot of like orbs and UFO sightings that come down over what's it called? I am having a blank where it's the gold
fever dream.
The gold like temple.
I don't know.
Well, underneath
the one in Indiana
Jones? It's like one of the most famous ones in Israel. Okay, but it is the one.
It is,
and it's of all people of everybody in Abrahamic religions, and so underneath that is some kind of like rock or mineral from like ancient times. So I believe they're coming there for a reason. So if they're in touch with the, like you were saying. That I feel like the federations, like I feel like maybe that's how they're keeping peace because they need to come back to the Holy Land for some kind of substance. What it is, I don't know. I'm just open minded to it, and I think it's fucking amazing.
Here's what I'll say. I think that it's unlikely. I think that it's not even the Israel thing. That I'm like Israel. I feel like they could keep some secrets. Like the Israeli Defense Force, like they could keep some secrets. The U.S., I'm like I don't trust them to keep any secrets, and that lends to like a lot of like my like conflict with when this stuff comes out, when like the government's holding it all back from us. Like I'm like they can't fucking keep any secrets. They're shitty at keeping secrets. Like they're fairly decent at it, but then all that shit gets out. Like they're just
eventually, yeah.
I gotta say, like look, I'm looking at this 2020. I think that I wonder if like people are disappointing no matter what your political views are in the outgoing president, because he kind of floated a lot of conspiracy. President Trump, we're talking about. He floated a lot of conspiracy theories, saying like, "I'll tell you about the aliens." Like I know, never divulged it, which is not. It's not unusual for president.
Does it surprise you?
He also kind of fed the QAnon thing.
Yeah,
and I think that there's a good amount of people that feel let down by that never happened. So I wonder if there's like a lot of there's
conspiracy theories with that too, because like Kennedy supposedly did leak out information and said he was going to, and then right after he said that, he gets assassinated. So I feel like presidents have to be really, really leery. But as we know, Trump, if Trump really believed that shit, or
he'd let that shit out,
in a heartbeat, because he's got a big ass mouth.
Oh, he'd let. Well, the thing too is like it's not just Kennedy and Trump. It's I think Carter said that he was gonna he said once I get in, I'm gonna take a look at this and I'm gonna let not a peep. I'm not sure about Reagan, but I know Clinton said that he was gonna be like, oh yeah, let's get it all out there. So there's definitely been other presidents.
Wonder like if they all are like oh, when I'm president, I'm gonna. Are they meeting up with some extraterrestrials? Is there some shit going down?
There's no power
that they're
meetings.
Like, fuck this. I'm not gonna fuck with these extraterrestrials, reptilian race. Who the fuck knows what?
Could you imagine? Okay, could you imagine being? This is gonna be a dumb dad Zoom joke, but could you imagine? Prepare everybody. Buckle up. But could you imagine being having the scientific capabilities of being an alien race that can either cross parallel dimensions, fly really far, really fast, or whatever, however fuck you think they get here, whatever. Like they're communicating with us, and they have this ultimate fucking technology that's like Uber's advanced, and they're dealing with our fucking Zoom asses, like being on, like cutting out and all that shit, being on mute. Like that must be frustrating. It must be frustrating for. The aliens, if there is a Galactian Federation, they must treat us like the fucking village idiots.
Well, yeah.
We're like the dumb uncle who shows up to Thanksgiving, like to them. And they let us go because,
And I think that's why every time we get like that bone where we get a little bit more advanced and.
Speaking of sperm eggs.
Maybe our rocket ships get a little bit further. You hear stories of astronauts saying that they all telepathically were told to turn around and go back to our planet because we're not ready yet. And to me, right there, by them saying we're not ready yet is like there's going to be a point in time. I feel like we're getting closer to it, where they're going to reveal themselves to us, and it's going to be amazing. I'm excited.
I don't know.
Hopefully, they're nice.
I think that the whole let's reveal ourselves. I don't know. Who knows? I do know that a lot of astronauts see some crazy ass shit when they get up there. They just do. Like there's call, and I think that it could be aliens because who knows? Who can discredit that? Because you don't know. I think that it's also likely that it's like the different light, the way the light reflects in space and shit like that, that's fucking with their brains. The fact that they're in space is fucking with their brains. So who knows? Who knows if it's a combo of that or if it's one or the other? Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I think that I don't know if they'd be like. I really doubt that they would be, if they're trying to keep themselves secrets, that they'd be in open communication. Not open, but semi-open. Because if you're talking to multiple presidents, you're in open communications for the most part. Like if you're an alien and you're like in charge of like alien privacy, like of shit not getting out about your alien planet or whatever, you're probably not going to talk to multiple presidents because one of those presidents is going to fuck up or something, or a CIA agent's going to fuck up, or someone's going to fuck up. Like I don't know. I think that if the whole aliens and waiting to reveal themselves, I think that is, if that is the case, it's very much that. And I'm not saying that's happening. You think I got to prepare myself for this?
Oh God, here we go.
You think the moon is hollow? I'm just going to get to it. Got it out. Whoa.
So
it's like exercising demons.
For our listeners, however you're listening, there is a conspiracy that the moon is hollow, which is interesting because there's also a conspiracy that the earth is hollow. So
how convenient.
I find it
coincidence. I think not,
because I'm open Don't listen to him. But because I'm open-minded, I feel like, why not? Like, there's when the astronauts had landed and when they came like hitting really hard on the actual moon, it made like a gong noise, and it was like a bell ringing for like 3 hours. And for me, that's an inkling that
it made like a gong vibration, right? That's the consensus, and because they have what they did to step back. So there's a few different things that people cite when they're talking about the moon being hollow, which is I don't know what I'm doing. One of the big things is that in some of the Apollo missions, that's why I was asking in the beginning whether.
God, I apologize. He's
sorry
disgusting.
About that. When people like, that's why I was asking you whether you believe that all the Earth or the moon landings were fake, because I don't think you could have. I don't know if you can hold both as a possibility, but I don't think you could hold both as
we
true.
We can get into that too. So
anyways.
Which one are you going to get into first?
I'm going to get into. We already talked about the fucking moon landing being faked.
The hole.
What?
The hollowness. We're
going to talk about the hollowness.
The hole in your soul.
The hollowness is another coach. We're going to have a whole Coachella lineup tonight. So when the first Apollo missions came down, one of the things they did is they put down devices that measure the seismic activity on the moon surface.
Yes.
And in one of the Apollo missions, what they did to kind of test how the moon reacted to essentially shit hitting it, for lack of a better phrase, is they dumped part of their craft onto the moon. Mm-hmm. And when they dumped it, it was a sizable dump, and part of it involved some feces. Of their dumps. So pardon the pun, but it was a sizable dump.
Could we tangent for just a second?
You always do.
Going back to, let's say that there's life on Mars, okay? Because I believe that sorry, Mars. Well, I believe there's life on Mars too, but the moon as well. Which they say that Mars also was in our orbit as well. So, if you were an extraterrestrial living on the moon, like, for me, how would you like it if some new person flew in and just loaded their shit off, literally? And how are you supposed to be like, yeah, come back anytime and leave your shit here?
Do you think do you think an alien poked his head out of his little manhole? He's like, what the fuck, man?
No, of course they had I'm sure they're the way that they could watch us is all invisible.
They got all the cameras anyway, so who cares? Someone was inside going, what the fuck,
But I'm just sure, they already look at us we're still cavemen, and so that on top of it, I'm sure it's
they're
just
cavemen. They're living in a constant cave. Fuck you.
You've never been inside the moon. You don't know.
I'm sure it's a nice pad, but,
You don't know.
Do you think they got a sweet setup, or is it just kind of boring and sterile?
I think it's very technological.
You think they have a lot of posters of their alien family next door, back at home?
No.
Their favorite alien rock bands?
Oh my God. I can't.
The Moon Theory on Navido. Or as they pronounce it, Manabdum.
Oh my God. He's and that's another thing that I really don't like. I take offense to it for
the aliens.
The otherworldly people. I don't even like calling them aliens. I like
they got a good sense of humor. They gotta have a good sense of humor.
Because I feel I don't know. I just feel it's disrespectful and making up planets, Nabu.
Listen, if you're
in
an alien,
languages, you don't know how they speak.
I don't know, and if you're an alien, call in and I will apologize to your face. I will say I'm sorry. You're an alien.
I will freak the fuck out if somebody calls her.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'm surprised we haven't got any prank calls like that yet, but
Lewis, I'm sure.
I know, right? So what they did is they dumped it right on the surface of the moon, kind of emulating what a meteor is, because meteors are constantly fucking hitting the moon. Like they're constantly crashing the moon because it doesn't have an atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like we're blessed enough to have an atmosphere, and most of this stuff burns up, so we don't have a bunch of holes in our Earth. I mean, we do. We have a lot. We've had plenty of meteors, but it's not as constant as the moon. That's why it looks like cheddar cheese or Swiss cheese. But so they dropped it, and what happened was the seismic meters essentially. It baffled NASA for sure, because it essentially, they described it, which is kind of maybe it fueled into the conspiracy theories, that they described it like a bell or a gong, because it just kept vibrating. Unlike Earth, where you have, seconds or a minute of vibration when you have seismic activity. With the moon, it kept fucking ringing, and I think they did it again. And I think it vibrated even longer.
Okay, again, going back to being extraterrestrial, living on the moon. How the fuck would you like it? You're just fucking chilling, watching your space Netflix, whatever the fuck you're doing up there, which, we can't even fathom because they're so much more advanced than we are. They're just Netflix doing their thing, and their fucking planet is gonging. And it's fucking making weird vibration sounds. I'd be like, fuck these humans.
Nah, but they got to be used to that.
Send these motherfuckers back.
Because if you believe that they
create an atmosphere so they can't even come back. Maybe that's why.
No, but they don't. They didn't even bother to do that. They're just taking hits. They're taking shots constantly. Because if you look at the moon, it's taking shots. So it's not like a new thing. Like, it's not like, they're like, what the fuck is that? Like, they're constantly getting like shaken. Like they all have shaken baby syndrome. Like they're just like vibrating constantly.
I know, but that's different when it's something like more natural.
You're saying
like asteroid, but like when we purposely go there and gong them, and
we didn't gong them.
Gonged them.
Now you're talking offensive. I'm sorry.
We got them gonged, and then just like taking pictures and shit and being rude.
So clearly, like the idea is that like. One of that really kind of ushered in the hollow moon theory, really, and it was actually it wasn't the first time it was proposed too, because it was actually proposed before that. So the idea was floated out by I think 2 Russian scientists, which I'm looking up right now, who first reported it in 1970, which was actually after I believe the Apollo landings, but it really came to prominence when these 2 Russian scientists. Released it. Their names were Michael Vazin and Alexander Sherbakov. I think I got that right.
I want to hear another thing that irritates me.
What?
Probably no. But
when I try to pronounce Russian names and butcher them? I'm sorry.
I don't care about that.
What?
No.
You care more about these aliens than...
No.
Fucked up.
All right.
It's fucked up.
Viewers, listeners.
Aliens, Russians.
Yeah, because... I'm
Russian
sure they're all listening too. I feel like I would be like if I was an astronaut, which is fucking, I wish I was that intelligent to even fathom on how like to be in space. Like maybe someday before I die. I mean, it's
possible.
Probably going to happen.
Yeah. If Elon Musk has anything to say about this,
if I was an astronaut in one of the Apollo missions, and one of my jobs was to take pictures and to tell people what I see. And
you think they just hire an astronaut
photographer? These
photographer?
motherfuckers didn't even take pictures of the sky. Like, they didn't even take pictures of the stars. And
of course not. They're busy. They're on the fucking moon.
I'm sorry. Like,
planting flags.
I take pictures of the stars now.
Showing Mason flags.
If you're on a fucking moon, I'm going to be taking pictures of the stars. And then...
No, you've seen the stars. You're taking pictures of that moon.
I'm taking it all. I'm taking it all in. I'm doing every morsel.
Are you sure they didn't take pictures of the stars?
When you're going to have that experience ever again.
But they took pictures of like that.
No,
like that.
No, they even said it. They were asked. They were asked. What's his face? Armstrong. Neil. Like they had asked him, and him and the other two guys.
Yeah, that's not even like
they were like, oh no, like we were too busy taking pictures of whatever.
Yeah, the moon. You're on the moon. You've seen the stars. How long have you been taking?
But they said they didn't even find anything,
stars?
which
You're
I think is a lie. I
moon.
think that there is definitely
What are you
ancient
talking
pyramids and other stuff on the moon.
Okay, we're gonna.
That's way down the wormhole. But
we're already way down the wormhole.
I feel like
we're beyond
not only
Alice at
that,
this point.
but then they failed to mention how colorful the moon is. And if you were to Google a picture of the image of the moon right now, it's not what we see.
But is it? Here's the thing too, is that I think that fine enough. Like they probably missed some stuff. Like you're not gonna. I think for me I'll get into like spoiler. I'm not gonna spoil. We're gonna get into what I think maybe is the most compelling stuff, or maybe what I think is the most interesting. I don't really like. I think that's fine. I think that if you're on the moon, you're consumed by being on the fucking moon. Like you've seen a bunch of stars. Like it's not going to be high priority. And in terms of like how it looked,
you were closer to other planets. Like I would,
but not much closer compared to.
I would want to capture something. Like
I don't think that's. I
feel
honestly
like
don't think
somebody
that.
should call in right now and agree with me.
Sure.
Call in at 626-733-8256.
But I don't think that's incredibly bizarre. I mean, I know they acted a little bizarre. I think I haven't looked at the validity of this, which is my bad.
And I will say, like, I get it. It makes sense.
I'm focusing on those rocks.
It makes sense, like, if we're looking at the moon and it is the color that it is, because of course the sun's
the light and the way photography has to be when they're taking pictures of the moon. They can't really get a great true picture
the
because
overexposure just from the sun.
Yeah, it's just going to look gray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just find it so interesting that I showed a picture to our 7-year-old daughter of what the moon actually looks like, and she was like, "That looks like Earth," and I'm like,
"Well."
This is what I'm saying. There's life on Mars.
It doesn't look like Earth at all.
There's life on the moon.
When you're actually on the moon, it looks like you're in the middle of fucking Death Valley.
But that's the footage. If that footage is real, that's why I'm saying. I'm not saying that we haven't been to the moon, but some of that footage looks fake to me. Like I just feel like you're just kicking around.
Here's why I think
dust,
that
like
this is a heated debate. Here's why I think that's. I think the footage end of it is fine. I think one of the weird things, and we'll get into some of the structures. Those are bizarre, and who knows? I think that maybe if I'm going to place any credence on like, is there life on the moon or was there life on the moon? I think maybe way back before humans were evolved into humans, or before oral history or whatever, or early oral history before written history. I think maybe there's some aliens who showed up on the moon, built some weird structures, and are since extinct. But I don't think the whole footage thing is a lie, because if you look at some of the private industries,
hey Madelise,
like look at Elon Musk. You think Elon Musk is not? If Elon Musk, to his credit, I'm not saying he should keep it secret, but to his credit, if Elon Musk finds any proof of aliens, he's gonna say that shit. Like all these private industry people, like
I don't know.
There's been I could see maybe first on like the Apollo, like they might, who knows, there might be some theories on them doctoring some footage. But there's been so many countries, there's been so many private industries, there's been so much private attempts at mining, there's been so many people involved with documenting this. There's been so many NASA employees, so many people part of the Russian space program. There's been so many people part of the Chinese space program, all kinds of like there's so many private and public employees who have captured this footage that it's hard to believe that it's doctored, like because we've seen so many images. I think the first images could be like, well, that's a little weird, but we've seen so many fucking images of it. I think the stuff that's weird to me is the images again, and it leads to maybe a conspiracy theory about maybe at one time, and not to give the last paragraph before we end the book, but I don't think the moon was artificially made. I don't. I think that maybe that aliens, if they're coming, I think that one thing that leads to the possibility of aliens having any involvement on the moon is the weird structures, and I think those happen to be Because when you make that many fucking dents, when you make that many holes in a sandbox, you're going to have some weird structures kind of form. That's just how it is. Like, it's been hit so many times, there's going to be all kinds of different patterns and stuff like that. But could it be like an ancient alien civilization who at one time had a station on the moon or whatever? Sure, whatever. I'm not gonna like
Deny.
argue for that, but I'm not gonna whatever. That's fine. And I think also too, the argument for aliens being involved on the moon is like the weird shit that astronauts see. I mean, do I think that that's alien activity? Probably not, but I think it's super interesting. It's super freaky. It's like it's like, for me, it's like endlessly fascinating, because it could either be like just thinking about the derangement of being in space and how that would fuck with your head and you would almost go crazy, or it's like aliens visiting you. Either one is fucking terrifying.
Well, there's ancient stories from natives that talk about when the moon arrived.
Sure.
So
there's origin stories of the sun, though,
which
too.
Obviously that's 100% true. I mean, why would the natives make up something like that? So,
well, I don't think that they made it up. I think they had it.
For me, though, it's like, how does this perfect circle, almost the exact same size as the sun, come?
No, it's not the same. So one of the arguments for.
But when it orbits, I'm saying it looks like it's the exact same size to cover it almost perfectly. So how does that just magically?
It doesn't. I mean, if you think about, so here's the thing. So what you're citing is that one of the arguments too for the moon being artificially made and a space base and all that fun is that when an eclipse happens, the moon is obviously not the same size as the sun, but when an eclipse happens, the way the moon is shaped and where it is at in our atmosphere and in space and everything, it looks almost perfect from our eyes. Mm-hmm. But I think that when you look, I step back and I was thinking about this because it is crazy and it is baffling and it is awe-inspiring. But when you look at the lottery of life on Earth, right? People, I think that whole thing is people looking for, like, how the fuck does this happen? There must be some reason behind it. But the chaos of life on Earth and that lottery it's already a lottery. Like, we've already, like...
Correct.
It's already 1/zillionth of a chance that we're even here, and the moon is, like, actually helped life on Earth and all that shit.
Without the moon here.
Yeah.
We're talking about catastrophic things happening. Weather changing. We wouldn't have seasons.
Sure. It's insane.
Waves would be thousands of feet in the air. Like, I feel like, personally, what I believe, take it with a grain of salt, just take in my crazy for a second.
Salt and pepper.
I purposely feel like whoever is on the moon is protecting us. They're watching over us. They are somehow guiding us. And they are keeping us in existence. And that's truly what I believe inside. And it's just a feeling.
I don't want to discount anybody who believes that. I just think that it's hard not to, with the way the moon is, it's fucking insane. Like, the moon itself, the fact that, and this is all disputed. I mean, scientists are just trying to figure shit out, and this might not even be the reason, but the prevailing thought on how the moon was created, and again, this might not be it. We might find a different reasoning why it came into existence, but the prevailing theory is that a smaller planet collided with Earth, and that essentially those particles kind of loosely formed into the moon, and that's why the moon is not as dense. And that's one of the theories behind the vibration, is that, one, getting back to that whole gong sound thing, one is that the moon is, I think, and I might be misquoting this fact, but the moon is about half as dense, if not more, than the Earth. So it's already got a loosey-goosey manufacture that'll keep it ringing. And also the fact that there is
That's because it's artificial.
Sure, why not? You could. That's what you believe, but I'm just saying that the fact is that the moon is seen as much less dense than Earth. Coupled with the fact that there's a small amount of water on the moon, which kind of actually, because what happens on Earth is with earthquakes,
gives you the possibility of life for sure.
There's not enough to sustain life for sure. But they say that. So one of the things I saw is that they say essentially it's under the surface and it's hard for water to be maintained on the moon because of the way it is in the sun and the lack of atmosphere. So the water is mainly frozen on the far side of the moon, which was called the dark side of the moon, far side of the moon.
Let's be clear. So the dark side of the moon is not a thing.
No, it's just a term that people use.
If you were on the moon, that side would not be dark.
But it's less. I think
would light it up. It's dark to us because we can't see it.
Well, it's dark to us, and also it does get less light. So it gets light, and there's certain portions of the moon that don't get any light. But I think scientists now have started to refer it to as the far side of the moon because it's just more technically accurate. Because it is darker, technically dark. It gets less sun, but it doesn't mean it doesn't get any. But the water, the main points where water is theorized to be found is actually on the far side of the moon because it gets less sunlight and it has the ability to carry frozen water because there's certain parts that don't see any sun. And that's where the frozen water is. So they say that if all that stuff was unfrozen, if any of the moisture that was contained within the moon were to somehow rise up to the surface, it would cover about a meter across the moon, which is not enough to really sustain life at this point. Who knows if scientists are going to be finding stuff that millennia ago.
Human, but other life.
Sure, that's a possibility. And we don't know what scientists are going to discover if the moon was actually a dwarf planet that could sustain life at one point and it wandered in. That the theory of the planet crashing into the Earth very, very long time ago and forming this moon is not true. I mean, the theories are always evolving. But it looks like for now, like at least life as we know it is not able to be sustained on the moon unless you have obvious technology on the moon to kind of create a.
Anyways, so
just to sum up, one of the traditional working theories of why it rang like a bell, and who knows, science is always finding new shit out. But one of the theories is that with the Earth, again, the water, the amount of water contained on Earth is immensely bigger than the amount of water that's contained on the moon. It's just vastly more water. That, along with the more dense the Earth, it soaks up the seismic activity. But in the moon, there's no water to soak it up. There's no density to soak it up. So it just fucking rings. It's like like a bell. If you hit
so you're saying even if it's not hollow, if it's just thick piece of whatever the hell it's made out of, it will still gong like that?
If it's the idea, and again, I think that
stump his ass.
Wait, what? So NASA, I think NASA did a disservice because they described it the best way they could, that it rang like a bell. Like nobody heard it go bong. Like the idea of it ringing like a bell is the idea that when you ring a bell, if you walk away and you come back some time from them, it's still going to be vibrating. Mm-hmm. That's the idea of ringing like a bell. Like they said that the seismic activity was just sustained itself for a long period of time. So that's one of the working theories on why it would have done that.
Right.
And there's no question that right now science doesn't explain. You can't explain with current science the idea of a hollow planet like that. It's not under our current scientific theories and stuff. It doesn't really work that way. Not saying that it can't, and I'm not saying that the moon can't be hollow for whatever scientific theory that might pop out that might ring true. It might be hollow. I just don't know. I don't think there's aliens chilling out in there. That's the thing. It's like that's where it gets. And I'm not saying that there's not aliens doing a lap around, like doing like a scenic detour on a down on a cross country trip, just like making a little trip to the moon and coming back.
Doesn't believe.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't believe that there.
I feel like we've had this debate so many times on our podcast too.
Yeah.
I feel like you don't want to believe
No,
because you're scared.
Oh no, it's not that. It's just there's not enough
It's the
evidence.
fear, and to me, it's
not enough evidence for me.
There's so much evidence.
Like the bell is like
people have been abducted.
I mean, that's not. They're not taken to the moon. Like
I don't know that. They'd be taken inside.
The moon thing is like like the whole. It rang like a bell. I'm like, well, that's just seismic activity. It's literally like nobody like banged and they heard like a metallic sound. They just like the seismic activity is weird. Okay, that doesn't tell me that there's a space. It doesn't. It could be. It could have been. It could have been like an ancient. It could have been an ancient base. Who knows? Like, and they deserted. I just don't. I think there's been, and also I think there's been so many fucking commercial rovers and everything. And I know that there's arguments that we've barely scratched the surface of the moon, which is fairly true. But there's been a lot of satellite footage, and we haven't seen anything besides weird rock structures.
You know what? Like,
that's the thing.
And I don't even bothers me is, I don't know if any of like our viewers
what bothers
listening
you besides my
besides you
shooting down your dreams of a moon base,
that like the soil, if you will, or sand, whatever you call, like the moon dust.
Fun.
Like, why don't we harvest more moon dust? Because
that is maybe the most hippy dippy thing you've ever said before. Why don't we harvest more moon dust?
It really, we would never go and fathom people.
We don't know that. I mean,
it's the experiments that they've done with moon dust. They've
that's a bold statement.
Artificially
Here's the thing I'll say.
Let's say, I don't know how scientists do it. Just visual. I'm going to say they magically sprinkled it on top of harvest fruit and vegetables, and they said
like Cajun seasoning.
The speed of how it grew was so fast, and I was just like, oh my god! See that we don't need GMOs. We don't need to be artificially manipulating stuff.
That's GMO.
That's natural.
So is GMO.
Is it?
Yeah, they genetically modify it by.
Do you know what they do?
By cross pollinating and stuff. It's not great, but
it's not great.
But we've been manipulating plants that way too, and I'm not saying that we are completely, and considering how as a kind of as a podcast that generates itself from the U.S., we are great. I think we're greatly losing the war for resources on the moon, because who knows? I'm not disputing that moon dust might not do miracles, because it's brand fucking new, and there's been all kinds of stuff, and I don't think we've studied it enough, and I think that who knows what it could do. I think the helium-3 thing that we were looking at, that might be...
Let's talk about that.
Might be a potential energy source. I mean, there's like talk about
That's brilliant.
But there's talk about how it would take too much helium-3 to really
and then it could become dangerous.
Efficient. And it's seen like the proponents for helium. So...
You did it.
Backing up a few steps. So what we're talking about is that one of the things that is talked about pretty constantly when you get into the rabbit hole of people thinking the moon is a space base is this helium-3, which is it's legit. There's no conspiracy behind it existing. It's a thing, and it comes from space. There's people who are proponents of it who say that it is essentially a radioactive energy that is much safer than actual nuclear energy. They've done it. They produce it on Earth. They've been able to artificially produce it. So far, a lot of people are saying that it takes a lot of helium-3 to kind of replace natural energies. That might change. And I'm a proponent for looking into that. And I think we should be mining on Earth, and we should be taking stuff back. Who knows if we're going to get any kind of crazy alien bacteria, which is probably going to be our doom.
That could be what COVID originated from.
But I'm with you. I'm not saying that it's going to cure. I'm with you on like, why fucking not? Like, try this shit out.
Well,
like, see
here's what makes me mad. I mean, I know that like we
we
have crafts
in
there, but like physical astronauts aren't going to the moon anymore. And to me, I know. You like the big debate is, we ran out of money. I'm like, no, fucking find the money.
Here's what it is.
I feel like if you ask me, hey, you wanna fund like astronauts going on the moon, even if I had an extra fucking dollar to pitch in once a month, if we got enough people to do it, fuck yeah.
Here's the thing.
We need to learn.
I get that. But the problem with that is that I think that a large part of the Apollo missions that the U.S. ran to get to the moon were men on both sides of the
That's
U.S.
That's the first problem.
U.S. and Russia.
Who's with me?
But the problem was men that we got, because men
usually is
wanted to, like the U.S. government and the Russian government wanted to prove how big their dicks were, and they wanted to swing their dicks. So the way they could swing their dicks to prove that they were a mighty military power, because we're talking about the Cold War, was to get to the moon. And after the U.S. kind of swung its dick, like they're like, we're done. And I think that's what it was. That's all it was. It wasn't for fucking, like, they didn't, Neil Armstrong,
but that's what makes me mad. Like, that's why I look up to China in that sense, because.
But China's not sending people. China's not sending people. I think the problem, the issue with sending people to the moon, it might happen again, but robots and satellites are cheaper. Yeah. China got a rover, got a rover to the far side of the moon, which would have been, to get a man to the,
they're
a
really
human to the,
investing in putting. But
they're investing. I
think.
think we need to invest in, like, personally, I think we need to invest in getting things to the moon, like getting rovers and more observations and photography to the moon to take samples and bring it back. We don't need to send people there anymore,
unless you want to colonize.
I mean, once you get to the point where you can start having a real moon base, yeah, but I mean, China's not sending people. They're sending rovers. They're like, fuck this. Like, we can get to the far side of the moon. Like,
yeah.
Look how expensive it was for you US assholes to get there in the 60s, 70s. Like, look how expensive it was. You guys were fucking just arrogant assholes who just wanted to show that you can put a man on the moon. You just wanted to plant your flag. They're just like, fuck that.
What were we listening to, or we were reading where it was talking about how it took us 40 something years, and then it took China like 30 days. It was something getting to the moon or something?
I don't know, but it was later on.
Something.
But yeah, I mean, science is going so fucking rapid.
Yeah, but I feel like our priorities, just with our government, and they aren't straight.
We're more focused on. Don't get me into, like, military budget spending, which is across. I know that we probably have people on all aisles of the political spectrum, and we probably have some yay pro-military people. But the amount we spend on the military, that's wasteful, completely wasteful, is obnoxious. Like, it's just, we spend like $740 billion on the military a year, which is a lot. And not to mention the fucked up fact that, you know, we spend that much money, but we still have veterans, like, living on the fucking streets. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, that's the fucked up part. It's not that we shouldn't take care of the people who served. It's like, we should, like, take care of the people we served and not invest in Boeing to make more missiles to sell to random fucking countries. Yeah. Anyways, that was a tangent. Sorry, everybody. We could just carve out some of that money and put it. The thing with the U.S. is now they're privatizing it. Like, NASA is basically saying, we'll help. Like, they have certain parts of the functions, but they're basically saying, SpaceX, you guys go. Like, you know, all these companies, you guys go. Like, we're good now. Like, we're gonna. NASA's a very big wing of the government, and has a very big role to play. But it's nowhere near like NASA, like, being funded by the government, having an enormous budget and that kind of stuff. Like, now it's like SpaceX is like the focus, and NASA does a lot of research. But in terms of getting people further, it's mainly private companies at this point.
Yeah,
essentially it's like the airline industry. Like, they're just like, you guys take over.
Meanwhile, you're rocking your NASA shirt.
I am rocking. I like NASA. I think NASA is amazing, but that NASA's, because of its funding and because of its directive, it's been asked to take a step back.
Yeah.
And there's still amazing people at NASA. They still do amazing research.
So, question.
And that's
back
another thing.
Into fun.
Sorry, that's another thing. I'm going to say this because I got to get it out. I think I love the people at NASA. I love you. I give them a lot more credit than them, like, finding fucking aliens waving and then hiding it, like being in cahoots. All those NASA employees being in cahoots with the government to hide that shit.
Yeah, NASA fucking hides a lot of stuff.
I think they probably hid some.
And they won't. like if you ask them about it.
I don't know. I think NASA, because of their function as a government agency, I think they hid stuff because the space race is in tandem in exploration. It's a human exploration. Like, I think, for instance, the Chinese government, I think they're doing it for the betterment of humankind, but I also think they're doing it as kind of a colonization thing, like exploring, getting further. And the U.S. does it. It's nothing against them specifically. But I think NASA kept secrets only for that purpose. I don't think they were keeping these vast, like, I don't think they were keeping geological surveys secrets. It seems bizarre that they'd be like, look, it seems like much less dense to the point it might be hollow. Let's hide that. Let's hide it, everybody. Like, that's a bridge too far.
I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theory shows that I've watched where people will point out things that they've seen on the moon and on Mars, and that, you know, that you can see the pictures that they've been posted, and NASA will go and modify them. Or I'll be like, oh, like you were saying, like, oh, it's just a natural way that, I don't know, that asteroid hit it, or, you know, like, and I'm just kind of like,
well, here's the thing too. NASA's
or
not
stuff's
gonna,
like muted out. You could tell that like they modified.
I don't think they modified. I think one thing you could say about them is that I don't think they modified surveys and stuff to hide. I just don't. It seems far fetched that they would do that, especially them being NASA being
unless they
full
were
of
asked
fucking,
to.
Unless NASA being full of like not high ranking military officials, but a bunch of fucking scientists. Like, I get the director of NASA hiding shit, makes sense. Like, I get the president hiding shit, makes sense. Bobby Bob, I'm gonna say there's a NASA Bobby Bob who took this geological survey. He's not gonna be hiding shit. Like, low ranking, they're not. I think one thing that you could say is that maybe NASA looks at these bizarre structures, and they are bizarre. Take a look at them. Like, there's a lot of bizarre structures, and it's like, that looks fucking weird. Of course, and that's why I said that might, if I may give some credence to the moon having some alien involvement, it might be ancient stuff. It might be stuff that was there in the past that was deserted because maybe the alien race finally fucking destroyed themselves, like, which seems to be what we're doing. Maybe that happened. But maybe NASA is looking for these.
And that would be my saving grace, going back to Noah's Ark. Because if we are destroying ourselves, and if the moon is some form of like a Noah's Ark.
But why would they be caring if we destroyed ourselves?
Because
why would
they
have
can,
like the 40,000 year long
if it is
game?
like a Noah's Ark and like some kind of spacecraft, it could easily just keep on moving, go on to the next atmosphere.
I guess. I mean, that's a fun theory.
It is.
It's fun.
I think it's fun.
I think getting back to that point, because I want to give some credence to this for you, some small credence, is I think that NASA, a lot of times scientists will be scared to think outside of the box for fear of being ostracized by their community. So I think maybe what you could say is that NASA looks at these strange structures and just tries to explain them away with science, like, you know, with our known science world, you know, the scientific theories that we've developed so far.
Because they're scared that we'll be scared?
No, I think I think more than that. I think for scientists, I think more than like, oh my God, look at Elon Musk, a curious mind. You could say he's a very scientific mind, right? I think that for him, I think if he sees aliens, he's going to blow the door up and he's going, yeah, I fucking saw aliens. Like, he's just that type of person. But for most scientists, I think that it's not a fear of like the public going nuts. I think it's a fear for scientists, there's some brave scientists like Galileo and stuff like that who didn't have this mindset. And there's plenty of curious, like, brilliant, open scientists who've blown the doors open on a lot of scientific theories. But I think some scientists will have a fear not of the public freaking out, but of their colleagues freaking out and them feeling like they're ostracized from the scientific community because they say it's whatever. I think there's some of that. But beyond the feeling that like in those pictures and in some of the stuff that like Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin have said, and other astronauts have said, they've seen weird lights. They've seen weird shit. There's been some weird photography and stuff like that taken where you see like lights where it could be some kind of alien craft. I think that's all weird, and I love the idea of that being aliens. I just think that's more of an open question than a yes, this is definitely so. I think that's what it is. I think it's just weird structures. Like, could it be? I think stuff that makes sense is that
too coincidental.
But there's coincidence. Look at how much. That's one of my.
Just
one of
like
the reasons why it's hard for me.
the moon being in a perfect orbit with the sun.
We got lucky. We won the lottery of life. Look at all the other planets. Do they have life?
That's what makes it, like, the moon
in our solar system, at least,
is just so obscure and unique. There's nothing like it
there's nothing like it. We won the fucking lottery, the ultimate lottery. We got on a planet.
It was made.
We got on a planet. There doesn't have to be a reason behind everything. It's just the chaos of fucking. We got on a planet. We were lucky enough to be on a planet where it's just far enough from the sun where it can have that perfect Goldilocks distance, as the scientists call it. Perfect distance from the sun, essentially, for a planet, for a livable planet. We are the perfect distance from the sun. We just are. Like, we are. That's why astronomers are looking at other solar systems, because they're looking for life. I don't think there's any astronomer who is not wanting to find alien life, and if they find alien, I don't think they're going to hide that shit, because everybody wants to break that news article, for sure.
Well, I think that's the problem too, though. Like, there's a lot of people out there that are, wackadoos that have said, "Oh, I've been abducted," or, might
there's
have some kind of
psychosis
mental, more like a mental situation going on. So I feel like, but I definitely feel like there is the people that have seen things and have been abducted. I've seen shit in the sky.
But that doesn't, so there could be that the aliens are coming, or they've been, or that we don't know. Like, it's crazy, it's bizarre. Like, and the thing is too, anybody who's had that experience, it's an experience. Like, who knows if it happened to you or you're having some psychosis, but to you, it's just as valid. That's the thing, is we all try to debate whether they're telling the truth or not, or whether it's actually like a real life occurrence, or if it's some level of psychosis. No matter what you think, is these people have had these experiences, so we have to give them credence in that experience, whether it's true or not. Like, it's an experience. So,
but it's documentation though, from our ancients. So it's like,
for me, but the thing is,
it is, we have been visited.
Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of people who say they've been visited. There's like mythology. Who knows what is mythology, and just people not knowing what the sun is, and they're like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Let's make up a story. It's got to be a bigger human because it's a big light. Who knows? But in terms of it directly being related to the moon, I think it's an open question. I don't think we've had answers. And I think there's a lot of questions about the moon. We don't know. I mean, who knows? It could be hollow inside. Yeah. Who knows? But I don't think that correlates with it being an alien base. And again, to get back to it, I think that the fact that the moon is like right where it is, and it's it's like just the right distance, it's just the right size to have these eclipses. It helps us out. Like, we would be a lot different planet if the moon wasn't there. So it seems like it's put there for a reason. But it's part of the lottery of what we won. Like, I don't think, when I see the eclipse, I'm like, that's fucking crazy. And I'm like, there has to be a reason for that. I'm like, that's just fucking crazy. Like, science, the chaos of science, and when it falls in place is insane. Like, and it feels like it means something. Like, it feels like everything should have a purpose. But part of the beauty of the chaos of science is that we just get crazy shit like that, where we happen to be in the right spot.
But also, biblically, you have to remember there are things in the Bible, like, where we are constantly trying to make sense of everything.
Sure.
And it also says in the Bible that we're not meant to know everything either.
No.
So, and a lot of times
I don't think we're ever gonna
have been wrong.
Sure. And I think science is savvy enough now. I mean, certain things like evolution, like, it's very, like, if you don't believe in evolution, like, you are ostracized full force. But there's a lot of, like, the moon theory. I think amongst astronomers, most of them believe that it was due to a collision with Earth. But you have some scientists who believe other things, and I think science is probably savvy enough to know that there's multiple theories, and there's probably the most likely theories, but there's also theories that are not known to us, like because we haven't made the scientific breakthrough, and there might be another explanation. I think that's I don't think we're going to know everything. I don't think it's ever going to be known. So who knows? It's always a who knows, but I think right now the evidence doesn't. It points to the possibility of aliens kind of circling the moon and stuff like that, and weird, bizarre activity. I think it points to that. I think it does. These bizarre structures might be like a fucking Prometheus situation, if you remember that movie, where it's like these aliens, sophisticated aliens, are building these ancient looking structures. Sure, but in terms of the evidence that there's aliens, there's a base in sight, or that aliens are like somehow in the moon still involved. I don't think the evidence is there yet. There might be eventually, but I don't think it's compelling enough to now. But I do think that again, get to it, like the alien, like these astronauts have seen some bizarre fucking shit, and who knows? Like, who knows? And it's an endless possibility, because you could start thinking about like fucking cloaking devices for alien life. So I mean, but that's all what ifs. Like the proof is not in the pudding yet. Yeah. But who knows? I mean, we might get on. And again, to give some credence to it, like the theory that there might have been some alien activity or whatever on the moon is like, we barely have scratched the surface of the moon. Like it's been a lot of satellite images, but we haven't been down in the dirt. Like that's gonna take a long time.
Yeah, I think that was the hardest part too. Like when Neil Armstrong had put the American flag in, when he was drilling, it got to a point where he couldn't go any deeper. It was almost like a type of
say there's like a thicker layer of rock underneath.
So I would like to break that bad boy open.
Just drill down.
Yeah. Why aren't they doing that? Why aren't the rovers doing that? Okay, you don't want to send humans? Have a fucking robot do it.
They are drilling down. The rovers are definitely drilling down.
What's in there?
Just they find the same shit. Well, now, whether that's because it's like a thicker layer of fucking
or it's a cheap-ass rover they don't want to invest the money in.
Oh, those rovers are fucking expensive. Fucking expensive. Super expensive. They're cheaper now, actually. Like, it's cheaper than... We saw another video that showed, like, how it costs, like, billions and billions of dollars to fly, U.S. astronauts out to the moon, and how it's, like, now basically, like, a couple $1,000, like, to get a rocket up there now. So, it's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, we can go on forever, but I think tangents be damned. Okay,
this was fun. This was really fun. We haven't done a podcast in a while just because we've been so wrapped up with stuff.
I got new video games.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Stupid
video games too. Video games in their essence are pretty dumb.
Oh my gosh.
All right, Kaya, where can they find you?
You can find me at Darling Dolly on Instagram. With a 0, not an O, or here at Carousel Hair Extensions, _ in the beginning, _ at the end. Email briekaye24@gmail. There's a lot of ways.
Give all your moon theories to that email. Give all your moon theories to that email. I have like 5 Instagrams to all my businesses. So. Well, you could find us. Don't look for me personally, because I'm not going to post anything. Just look for ExtraNormal Podcast at Instagram or at Twitter, ExtraNormalP. You can email us if you have any theories. If you want to send us fucking surveys of the moon on at extranormalpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube at ExtraNormal Podcast. If you search there, find us on all your favorite podcast machines. And make sure you like, subscribe, follow, all that bullshit. All right, this has been an episode of ExtraNormal Podcast, and I say it's been a while.